how can we activate our students to achieve their goal, to achieve their aim. And for that purpose, with the guidelines of our HOD ma'am, Rajneesh Kaur Sachdev ma'am, we have started this webinar series. Now I request Professor Dr. Sambhaji Sarode sir to welcome our guest. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Sambhaji,
thank you, Professor. Yes. Yeah, thank you, Professor Suresh sir. And I would like to first of all thank to you because this is a great initiative that I started for conducting this series of programs for the students and making them aware for these particular activities and knowing more better these various industries. So firstly, I would like to welcome Purushottam Darshankar sir for accepting our invitation and taking our time for this particular program for 1 hour for this educating our student. Sir, on behalf of entire MIT ADT University, I warmly welcome you for this particular expert session. When we interact with the student, then generally when we informally we discuss with the student, then they say, usually they say that, sir, our university do conduct various activities through the holistic development module or through the various technical other modules or internship module. But can we have one session wherein that our industry expert can come and can share their experience, can show the path that how the industry life will be, and before we know prior to the interview process, then we can educate ourselves, then we can understand that what process or what is the life or culture activities at the industry level. Because we do conduct the various technical programs for the student to enhance their technical skill set, and also we try to even give the flavor to them through internship, that how the project development happens in the industry as well. Because we do have the various research project from the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, few industries like VM Hong Kong, and other like IMD, even India Meteorological Department, and other research projects, even from the Department of Registration and Stamp Duty. So we try to give, because while they learning and doing the various academic projects, because we have mini project module in every semester, starting from the second year to final year, and we try to educate them start from the second year when they step into the computer science and engineering after the first year completion. We do teach them the various best practices that they can adopt, because it's not a one semester work that they can easily understand and they can cope up the things, but it requires some time. So we start this journey from the second year, and slowly we build them so that when they enter into the final year, at least they can do the good amount of work or quality work when they approach to the any industry, because they do have a 6-month full-fledged internship where they can go into the industry and they can spend the entire 6-month time to complete the project. So from department viewpoint or from the in a university viewpoint, we try to give the best practices to them. But that happens from the academic model. But it's very important even to listen to the industry person who is working and who is developing and handling the different portfolios of the company. Then the student usually asks that, sir, can we have one session from the experts so that we can get the more exposure of this development cycle and the other aspects related to it. So I request all the participants, students, that take the maximum benefit of this program, because it's very good to listen to Purushottam sir, because he is a chief architect innovation at the persistent system. So I request all of you to make this session more interactive, so that you can discuss with sir, you can ask the queries time to time, and you can make the more this session fruitful to all of us. So thank you so much, sir, for giving this opportunity to introduce the Purushottam sir. Over to Suresh sir. Thank you.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sambhaji Sarode sir, for briefing about the our academic activities to the sir. And now I request to Purushottam sir, please start with your sessions.
Yes.
Eager to hear you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would want to thank Suresh sir and Dr. Sambhaji sir for giving this opportunity and setting the right context, right? So I think there are a lot of excitement when people are moving from academics to industry. There is a lot of excitement and all of those things. And I think I had a brief chat with Suresh sir also. So in
Yes.
terms of what are the expectation, and I think he has also listed some agenda items as part of this webinar. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to spend around
Sir, we cannot hear, sir.
Yes, I
I
think
think
sir has some
sorry.
network issue.
Correct.
We'll wait for a few minutes.
20 minutes talking order technologies to enable their end customers, right? So we'll talk about that, and then as
Hello, Purushottam sir.
uh, this is my fourth company. So in a span of 25 years,
Sir, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Sir, yes, your voice is cracking. You are not audible.
Okay. So let me stop my video and then maybe things would be better.
Okay.
Yeah, that will.
Is it better now by any chance? Has it improved?
Yes, sir. Perfectly fine.
Yes,
Perfect.
sir. It's good.
Yeah, so what I was talking about is that I just wanted to give a high level view of how my 25 years in this specific area, I mean, how was my journey? And this is my fourth company. I just switched 4 companies, but it is likely that you students are going to change a company every 3 years. And I think that is quite likely to happen. The things are changing very fast. There are a lot of mergers, acquisitions which are happening, and the companies which are not adapting to the new technologies, they are going to go away from the radar. And if you look at this report that is published every year, you have top 500 fortune companies which are listed every year, and you will always see that 40% of the companies, they leave the top 500 slot and the new companies are coming and all of those things. You must have seen a lot of infographics around that. So let me get started on the agenda that has been set today. Is my slide visible? Sir, is it visible? Hello. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about technology innovation trend. And when we talk about innovation, there is a difference between research and invention. And we did hear from sir that there is a lot of association with some of the research institutes where there is a lot of research specific activity also being taken up by the college. And so there is research or invention on one side and there is innovation on the other side. So there is a big difference between research and innovation. So research is something which is generally done by academic institute. There are research institutes, they pump in a lot of money, they pump in a lot of time to create certain invention or knowledge artifact, we would say, and that is what we call it as research. The innovation is exactly opposite of it. They extract money out of invention that has been done. So what do they do? They take that invention and they try to build a commercial model so that they can impact the day-to-day life of ours, and they what we call it as innovation. So they convert this invention into innovation, and there are different types of innovation, right? And today we are going to focus on innovation, and most of these innovations are driven by the technology advancement, and I'll talk more on that. So there are different types of innovation. We have incremental innovation, we have sustainable innovation, where all the market leaders or the leaders, they need to innovate to keep their product alive in the market. So we call it a sustainable innovation. Then we have big the big changes that we see, we call those innovation as radical innovation or disruptive innovation. And when we talk about disruptive innovation, the impact is very high. We are talking about 5x or 10x impact. And let's talk some of these examples, and then you will understand what are we really talking about innovation. You all have heard about Uber, Ola, and all of those things. And if you look at Uber, they do not claim themselves as a fleet service provider. they claim themselves as a technology company. And what they have done, they have built a very robust platform, and they try to match the ride between the seeker and the giver. So we have the people like you who would want to seek the ride, and there are drivers who own the cab. Uber doesn't own the cab, and they are ready to give the ride to you. So they marry this seekers and givers, and that is how they provide this platform. And we are all used to book a cab with Uber and or Ola and all of those things. People like me, they know the hassles of traveling from one location to other. Even the whole tantrums that you must have seen by the rickshaw drivers and all of this, but things have changed. And the reason why I'm giving this example is that Uber operates in more than 60 countries. If you look at the number of employees, the official employees, those are enrolled by the Uber, they are just 20,000 plus employees. Their revenue is close to $20 billion. Now, if you compare Uber with any of the top companies in India, let's take a Wipro. So Wipro is around 190, so 10 times bigger than Uber. So are their revenue 10 times bigger than Uber? The answer is no. While Uber is making close to $20 billion, company like Wipro, which is 10 times bigger than Uber, their revenue is close to 8 billion or so. So they are almost 1/4 or 1/5 of what Uber is this thing. So because of this disruption, they are able to generate that amount of revenue, right? So that's the example I wanted to give. Another good example that I would want to give is of Amazon. So Amazon in 1995, they were just doing the online selling of the books, and it is just almost 20 years back, or 15 to 18 years back. And then when they built this particular platform, they realized the potential of this platform, and then they diversified their business into multiple areas. And Amazon is a company which is looked at as a technology leader, the one who adopts the technology at a very early stage. Now, Amazon is a household name. I'm pretty sure 90% of you would have the Amazon apps on your mobile device. They are also into cloud. If you look at their cloud share, they are almost having 30% of global market cloud share. Amazon Cloud, we all know that, right? And it's almost $300 billion company. Last year itself, they added $100 billion to their revenue. So huge impact, lot of things. All of their warehouses are completely operated by robots. It's a complete paperless warehouse operation that we have. If you go to Bay Area in US, they have opened up Amazon Go. There is not a single person who is manning that retail store. You walk it into the Amazon Go store. You have an Amazon wallet. You pick up anything that you want into your crate or bin, right? So you remove it, you put it back, you just throw it into the bin, and all of those things. It will exactly know what is it that you have taken up, and when you just need to walk away. There is no person on the gate. You just walk away, and the amount will be deducted from your Amazon wallet. So it's completely unmanned Amazon Go stores. Those are operated in US, and the technology has enabled that, right? And these are all companies that I'm talking about on the Western side. Even on the Indian side, if you look at Book My Show kind of thing, right? So they don't have any infrastructure. They don't own any infrastructure, right? Any cinema theater or anything. But still today, 70% of the booking, now forget about Corona pandemic situation. But if you look at the steady business, what they were doing, almost 70% of online booking was happening through Book My Show. It's almost 1,500 crore business. So the reason why I'm giving this example is the technologies are driving this particular businesses. Paytm, now Paytm Vijay Sharma, who is the CEO of Paytm, is the youngest billionaire as declared by the Forbes, right? So they declare the youngest billionaire. So his net worth was $1.3 billion, and his age was just 39, very younger to me, younger to all the professors who are there. And then he was a billionaire at that point in time. And during demonetization, the Paytm was handling 60% of mobile transactions, mobile wallet transaction rather, right? So all the big banks are, they really have a threat from this fintech companies. So all of these companies are called as fintech companies, right? Financial technology companies. So there is a technology that is shaping up these businesses. There are companies who didn't they didn't feel this particular pulse of technology change, and they were nowhere in the in today's ecosystem. And some of these companies is like Kodak, right? I don't know how many of you know the Kodak, right? So Kodak was number one in terms of cameras, the paper on which the Kodak photos were getting printed, and Kodak. The company doesn't exist now, and they were number one. And the reason because the other peers of Kodak, they since the digital wave and they got into the digital cameras, like I'm talking about Toshiba's or Sony and all of those who were competitor to Kodak, right? The other examples are Motorola or BlackBerry. BlackBerry was taking a pride in terms of their QWERTY keypad. There is the keypad was very different. That is their patent, and then you would have a very secured email. But iPhone changed the complete whole paradigm shift, the way we are engaging with the smartphones today. And then the BlackBerry didn't follow that trend, and even they introduced BlackBerry 11 and all of those things, but the world had moved quite ahead of that, right? So the point is that there is a technology wave, and all the companies they are striving to be part of that technology wave. If they do not follow that technology trend, they are going to perish. And this technology change is coming to us at a very high speed. And we all know Moore's law, right? So it is all driven by the Moore's law, and that is how the whole technology change is hitting us at a very fast pace. I'll just take a pause. Just wanted to take a quick check. Is my voice audible, and are you following me? Maybe one of you can just respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Perfect. Good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is what I just wanted to set the context, and this is how I would want to articulate. These new technologies are being introduced at a speed faster than ever, and I talked about this Moore's law, right? And it is impacting your day-to-day business, right? Day-to-day life also. And typically, if you look at Gen Y, we call it as millennials, or most of you are a Gen Z population, right? So they are, uh, I would not say completely born and brought up, but they mainly are brought up into into our society with technology around. Unlike me, we had to struggle quite a lot. The technology was coming from western part to the eastern part, or the Asian part, and it used to take 10 years, 20 years and all of this. But today I think it is all a global phenomena, and so it is hitting us very fast. We are seeing the way it is impacting our day-to-day life. We have Google Home, Alexa kind of devices where they are becoming your family companion and all of those things. So that's the kind of thing that we are looking. And this thing now, just wanted to give you some example or few examples while I'm taking you through the technology. I was just taking my daughter to one of my relatives' place, right? And I'm still I mean, I do blend technology with the traditional ways of living, right? And then I was telling her that, see, you need to remember this. If you have to come alone, you should know the road and all of this. And we were driving, right? And it has a very different roads and all of those things. And then she impromptu, she said that, okay, what's a big deal? I'll put it on a Google Maps and it will take me there. So that's the kind of comfort that we are living in. Otherwise, I would look around the area, will try to remember certain landmarks, and then probably try to remember. But today's generation, they are so hooked to the technology, they really don't have seen the other part of life. So I'm just trying to give you some examples, right? So this is how the technology is shaping of our life. And when we look at the speed is humongous, and with which it is hitting us right now. Look at this particular chart. Now on one side you have the automobiles, telephone took almost as you can see, over 50 years to reach first 50 million users. Now look at the electricity. I can give you exact years. Thomas Edison introduced the electricity in 1870. It took almost 40 years. Believe me, it took almost 40 years to generate the steady electricity. So 1870 was the invention. It took 40 years to really build a generator with steam as a back-end engine and the conversion of one form of energy into electricity. It took 40 years to generate stable energy. And it took another 20 years to consume that electricity into a manufacturing setup where we say industrial revolution happened, right? So it's good 60 years for Thomas Edison to see his invention being consumed, or we call it as democratization of innovation, right? So it took 60 years. So that is the thing that we see here, right? Electricity taking 46 years or 50 years to really adopt and all of those things. I can give you another good example of what we have seen and that I have seen, right? So if you look at Airtel, uh, to reach first 50 million users, I'm talking about first 50 million users. Airtel is, all of you know Airtel, right? So it's a telecom service provider, and for Airtel to onboard 50 million users, it took almost 11 to 12 years. Jio was able to, Reliance Jio was able to onboard 50 million users in flat 83 days. I'm repeating, 83 days. And that's a world record, onboarding such a huge numbers in a flat 83 days, right? And the reason, because they leverage the complete new technology stack. We call it as this India stack, right? So where you have Aadhaar based KYC, you just give your thumbprint and your KYC is done, as against the earlier traditional way of giving the Xerox, and then they will visit the office and or house and then do the KYC. So all of this, but they leverage the technology, and that is how they were able to get this 50 million users in flat 83 days. So this is the kind of examples that I would want to give. Now, when we are talking about innovation, how do we know what innovations are happening and all of those things? So I just don't want to confuse you guys with throwing a lot of jargons, but I'll try to put it very simple, right? So if you look at any innovation, right? Just let me pick up the page. Yeah. So if you look at any of this innovation, right? So there is an innovation trigger over here, and there is a lot of excitement that is there. People say that this technology will do this, that, and all of those things. There is a lot of hype that is going, and that's why it is called as hype cycle. And slowly people realize, and we call it as disillusionment, and this is how there is a trough of disillusionment, and all of that excitement tries to settle it down. And once that gets settled, slowly that technology is being adopted, and we call it as plateau of productivity. So this is how the innovation curve happens, and different technology ride this hype cycle, and this hype cycle may be of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, based on the technology. And I know this slide is published by Gartner. Gartner publishes this innovation hype cycle every year. This is last year's innovation hype cycle, and they talk about a lot of technology. And I don't want you to read this technology, because this is all cluttered slide and you may not be able to read it. And I'll try to talk about what are the technology trends which are there, and then probably slowly I will move into the life, the industry life, right, when you're moving from academic, because that's the main agenda. But I just wanted all the information that I'm sharing you prepare well for your interviews, because interview is not that it's a kind of question answer session. Those are discussions which are happening, and then your confidence in talking about technology, talking about your understanding of the problem statements and how the technology could answer, I think that is also very important, and I'll cover that part. So this is how you need. The other way of looking at technology is to look at technology radar, which is published by ThoughtWorks. So if you just Google it, ThoughtWorks, they publish technology radar, and they talk about all the technologies, tools, platforms, the languages and frameworks. So they give a complete roadmap of how these technologies, tools, platform, or the programming languages that you need to really focus on. And they bucket them into 4 areas. What are technologies that you need to adopt? The one that comes in an adapt category is that the companies are already using those technology. There is a trial bucket where you need to explore that, like Scala and all of those things, they may fall into trial error. Assess is basically you just look at how do the assessment of the technology, right? And then there is a hold category. Hold category is something that people tried, but they didn't find the value in that particular technologies, and they want you to hold that particular thing. So you should really focus on adopt and trial. So I'm just giving you some generic information that you can look. Now this is where is again Gartner's top technology trends, and when I explain this particular slide, you will not make any sense because these are all single words, and then Gartner has really a deep thought in terms of when they say these are the 10 technology that will shape up. You need to understand what is this, and I'll explain you quickly, and then you will understand what are the technologies, and then based on your interest, your strength, you need to choose the right area that you can spend in that particular technology, because uh, I mean, you need to really master one of the technology, but you need to be aware of other technologies, which is very important. And let's talk about this, right? The first thing is about hyper automation. Now, there is a lot of automation that is happening both on the, I mean, on the front end part, front office automation, mid office automation, back office automation. And we all know that artificial intelligence and machine learning, they are taking away the jobs of human, which is right. The reason because the machines are able to identify certain pattern in the data, which is a multi-dimensional data. As a human, I can infer the data which is two-dimensional or three-dimensional, and I cannot visualize any data beyond 3 dimension, but machines are, and they are able to identify certain patterns, and they will be able to take the better decision than human, and that's why machines are replacing the human jobs where there are certain decisions to be done based on certain patterns in the data, right? And I don't want to further spend time on that. And AI ML, how it is being adopted, would be altogether be a one different session that can be taken up. So this is all about hyper automation, which is mainly about how machines are, or the AI ML technology is penetrated deeply into the businesses. Next is multi-experience. Now, what is this multi-experience? This is all about how we are interacting with the system today. Days are gone where we are seeing a very clumsy screens. I don't know whether you have seen the legacy mainframe screens or the old SAP screens. They are very cluttered, green screens with a lot of things here and there. But now things are being made very simple. There is a mobile first approach where most of the enterprise systems are now can be even accessed from the mobile devices. Now we are talking it further. We are talking about you people can interact with the system using voice. So you already have Siri, Google Now, and all of those things, and people are interacting using voice. All of your new automotives or at the latest cars, they have the voice interaction with your dashboard. So you just say, I want to increase the AC, please play Kumar Sanu song and all of those things, and it will listen. So that is a voice interaction. So you can see the voice interaction, Google Home and all of those things. Mobile is there, and further to that, you have this augmented reality and virtual reality. You can augment a lot of content on a physical world, and people are interacting with that. So that is all happening nowadays. So augmented reality, virtual reality, voice assistant, chatbots, your conversational AI, and all of the things is part of multi-experience. Third is democratization. And before I explain what is democratization, let me give you one example. Tesla, as you know, they manufacture electric car in US, and it's a very popular car. You still need to wait for your Tesla car to come to your door house because there is a waiting period. And this is the real story that has happened with wife of one of my friend, right? So she got her Tesla car and she was very happy. And then she got that particular car. She drove. Everything was so nice. But she had one problem. When she was parking her Tesla into her garage, garage is nothing but a parking slot. There was a bump, and then when she was parking the car into her garage, that bump was hitting the underneath belly of that Tesla car, and that annoyed her. And such a big company, and they are not able to manufacture the car in a way that fulfills everybody's requirement, right? And that was hitting. She got very annoyed and she called the call center. She said, I want this particular thing to be fixed. The bump is hitting my underneath belly, which is annoying me. I will get my car tomorrow and you need to fix this. And then the person on the other side, she listened to her annoyed. I mean, she was annoyed, obviously, right? She took all the details and all of those things, and she said that, ma'am, we will give you a call tomorrow, and then we will resolve this issue. and not getting a very concrete answer, she was little annoyed. And then next day she called up. There was no call communication and all of those things, and she called up the call center person again, and somebody other person took up the call, and she said, okay, I mean, let me look into the system. And she said, yeah, we have got your problem, and there is a request already raised into the system, and but I see that the problem has been fixed. Why don't you give a try? And she said, how can this problem be fixed? And you're giving me a very wrong information. Nobody called me and all of those things. But then she said, yeah, madam, we have fixed it. Why don't you give a try? And she was really very pissed off with all this situation, but she wanted to give a try. And believe me, she took her car, she drove it, she parked it back, and everything was fixed. And there was no bump was not hitting her car. And all of this was possible just because over the air, it is called as over the air upgrade. All the configuration of the Tesla car was upgraded over the air between the time she raised the request and somewhere in the midnight when there is a less load onto the system, they push all over the air upgrades. So there are a lot of upgrades, those are happening into the car very periodically. And with that, they had fixed this particular issue. And that is the kind of consumer service that you are giving to your customer. And this is called as democratization of services or democratization. So democratization is about how do you give easy access to your products and services to your end customer, and that is called as democratization. It can be democratization of knowledge, it could be democratization of machine learning models and all of the thing. It is ease of access, and that is very important when we call it about democratization. I just wanted to take a pause. Am I audible and are you able to follow me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll quickly cover this slide and then we come to the main agenda. Next is human augmentation. Now, what is human augmentation? The quick context to this is that if you look at the humans were considered as one of the intelligent animals on the earth, and by virtue of the physical structure, the limb structure and all of those things that we were having, and our whole neural part, the cognitive part of humans, right? So that is how we were, we are the intelligent being on the planet. But slowly with robots and all of those things, they are performing much more work than what I can do, because the robots and all of those things, all of the limb structure, and they were able to do. And that's how with the industrial revolution, I think the humans were replaced by the robots. So that's one part of the revolution. The second part was the human brain, the cognitive power that we have, and the neural aspect of it. And today we have all of these supercomputers, or the computers which are able to crunch huge amount of data, and with the neural networks which are there, all our cognitive power is also being overtaken by the machines, and that's the thing that we see. But the human augmentation is much more than that. So what this particular thing says is that we are going to augment a lot of technologies onto our bodies, and it could be in form of haptic sensors, it could be wearable, it could be implants which are there as part of getting the better health. Now I think you know all the dialysis being done with a implant being there, the hearts are being replaced and all of this thing. That's the healthcare part of it. But we are also going to wear a lot of haptic sensors to really communicate with the physical world. I talked about augmented reality, virtual reality. So this is one big area. I can talk at length about this particular area, but we are going to augment a lot of technology, be it a fashion part of it. You can see a lot of this wearables are also changing. If you look at the consumer, there is once in a year there is a consumer expo, and you can see how the technologies are even shaping of the consumer part of our life, right? So that's the thing. The next is transparency, traceability, and all of the things. So transparency and traceability is all about digital ethics and privacy needs. There is a lot of information that is a very personalized information that you are sharing unknowingly, knowingly into the public domain. And that's why we have this GDPR. There is a lot of fight going between Facebook and the Indian government, Twitter, and all of those things. There is a lot of things, those are there in the public domain. There are a lot of hackers which are misusing the information, and so there is a lot of investment that is going into the security part of it. So I will not cover that. So again, this goes hand in hand with AI security. What is AI security? I just explained that machines are taking a better decision than human. So will you allow machine to take the decision without humans? The answer may be yes and no. So for example, there is a treatment on a cancer, and if the machine says there is no cancer because the cancer patient may be one amongst 1,000 or 10,000. So the accuracy has to be very perfect for you to really take a decision, right? So though machine learning models say 99%, 99.9%, you cannot leave machine to take those decisions. You want a human augmentation to those decisions. That is what called as AI security. I'll give you one quick example. Amazon launched their machine learning model to decide which employee to which in candidate to hire, right? So and then they expose the candidate to this machine learning model. The machine learning model was picking up the questions to interview the candidate, and based on the answers it will then pick up more harder question. If it answers that, it will pick up more harder question, and then they will rate the candidate based on how the interview how the answers were given. And after they put that particular machine learning model, they realized that the machine learning model was favoring male over female, and they started observing that. And then there were a lot of debate which happened. And then what happened was that with the model on which the machine learning was trained, there was a gender thing, and as any data scientist would say, okay, remove this gender and all of those things, and let's retrain the model and put the model again. And after removing the gender specific feature set in the raw data or the training data, they trained the model and they put, but again they realized that the model was favoring male over the female, and because there were hidden patterns, and the reason why it was there, because it has a lot of natural language text within the model that was trained. And any female would say, I got trained into this thing, I was national champion of women's basketball. And so unknowingly there was a gender specific features which were getting added. So again they realized that, and they had to scrap particular thing. The reason why I'm giving this is that nothing is perfect. You need to really think, and that is where AI security is something that you need to really look at. You cannot just allow the artificial intelligence to take the decision. You need to augment the human. I'll just quickly talk about other part. It is going little high on this particular slide. I'll wrap this quickly, and then we'll spend 10-15 minutes talking about the organizational part. This is all about the cloud part. You should know cloud. All the companies are moving from the on-premise, we call it as on-premise, or a private data center into a cloud. And again, cloud was earlier like Amazon, Google, you have Microsoft Cloud, you have Oracle Cloud, and all of this thing. Not all, I mean, again, those are the cloud service provider. The biggest disadvantage is the security part. When you are leveraging the cloud, all of your data resides and owned by them, and then all of those things. So again, a lot of things are there. There is a edge computing, which is also very important. Not everything needs to be processed on the cloud. You need some decisions to be done at the edge, which is called, we call it as, and this is more to do with IoT and all of those things, right? So that's the other thing is autonomous things. All of these unmanned vehicle, driverless cars, and all of those things are there. You have robots, you have drones, and all of those things. All of those things are happening. The drone attack that happened just last week is a good example. So people are misusing this particular thing. So a lot of technology, a lot of investment is happening in this technology as well. And blockchain, again, blockchain has some use cases that is there. So this is how the different technologies are there. You need to understand IoT, cloud. We talked about artificial intelligence. We talked about machine learning. We talked about security and all of those things. So this is very important for you to understand. So all of these technologies are delivering certain value when it comes to putting together the solution. So we call it as a nexus of forces. We have cloud, analytics, big data, machine learning, the connectivity part. The last like connectivity is nothing but IoT and all of those things. But the real innovation is happening at the intersection. So this is the intersection at which the innovation happens. So the true innovation needs all of these technologies to contribute. Not one technology can solve the real world problem. And that's why, so let's take a example of connected healthcare. So you need different sensors, You need the IoT, which is a sensor part of to do all of those things, and then you need a connectivity to send the sensor data or the vital data to your mobile device. You need to store that particular thing where data would come. You need to push that to the backend cloud. The cloud will come into the picture, and you need to infer based on the data that has come in. So we call it as analytics. And then to give you certain recommendation that your health is not good, you may feel this and all of, there are certain predictions which are there, which is called machine learning. So if you look at simple connected healthcare, it covers almost all the technology. IoT is there, big data is there, analytics is there, cloud is there, machine learning. So that is how you need to understand all of these technologies together. I'll not spend much of a time. I'll just take a pause and see if you have any questions on the technology, and then I'll talk about the organizational part. Any questions so far? Okay. I'm assuming you're able to, are you able to follow me, and is my voice clear?
Yes, sir. It is
Yes, sir.
perfect.
Okay. I'll spend 1 minute on each of this technology, and just since there is a slide, but I'm not going to spend too much. So this is about all AI, ML, and you have seen. So when it comes to machine learning, there are, you need to understand the machine learning is being implemented on a discrete data, which is a very numerical data, right? The salary, your age, and all of those things, it's a numerical data. The other big area where machine learning is being used is a text data, and we mostly the NLP part, and then there is a text related data. So that is, the treatment is very different when you are want to process the text data. The third type of the data is image, right? So image again is in a matrix form, and again you need to process image very differently. So that is very different. And again, videos and all of those things is again part of image. And then the voice. So this is, voice is nothing but a continuous stream of the data. Voice is nothing but it is a audio wave, and it is a continuous stream of the data which has relevance with the time. So different treatments are required. Again, AI is a big area. The statistical machine learning is very different. The neural network part is very different, and you need to understand all of this. And we already see machine learning being heavily used, and I don't know whether you know, if I go into Gmail and if I start typing, it automatically knows exactly based on the text in the message, it will give you certain hints, and if you accept that, you would just have to complete your email if it knows whether it is a spam mail or not, and all of those things. Driverless car uses all of those things. Your Flipkart and Amazon and Netflix, they give a lot of recommendation. There is a lot of things which are getting annotated. So it says if I feed this image, the machine learning says that it's a group of people shopping at an outdoor market. So it sees the people, it sees the market, it sees the outdoor location, and it creates a very semantically and syntactically correct text to describe this particular image. So there is a demo which I would skip for now. IoT, a lot of things have evolved over a period of time, is where in the client server architecture, then we got into, and then we got into this www era, which we call it as the internet era. We got again the machines, the local machines were made very powerful, but then with browser coming in, again everything was kind of pushed to the back end, and we saw this client server architecture, internet coming in. Then we got a social era where people got connected, right? So everybody has a social profile, and we got the system connected, we got the people connected, and now today we got all the internet things connected, right? With almost 50 billion devices connected today, it is almost 5 to 6 devices per user which are connected over internet. So that's the kind of power that we have today. And the reason, because the connectivity is, the cost of connectivity or the internet is very less. The cost of sensors have almost reduced 5 times in last 10 years, right? Your storage is better, your compute has been gone very high, and all of those things. This is 2020 Gartner prediction, where you are going to interact with machine, and I'll give you one example of this. And this is not a very recent example. Almost 2 years back, I had visited. I was on a travel to US, and I was using AT&T card there. And since my trip was very short, I wanted to change the plan. So what happened was that I gave a call to their call center number. The lady greeted me there, and then I said, I want to change my plan. I want to convert this thing so that I can consume better data and all of those things. And my query was received very well by that lady. And then she said, okay, your request has been taken. We have changed your plan. And then I suddenly, I mean, all of a sudden I thought that let's see, I want to purchase a new iPhone. So I just asked, can you please help me locate the nearest Apple store where I can purchase the iPhone. I just wanted to see the iPhone because in US, all of your devices are bundled with the telecom service providers package, unlike we have there. So the lady over there, she said, sorry, I am not trained to answer this question. And when she said that I'm not trained to answer that question, and then she said, do you want me to transfer this call to a human agent? Then I realized that I was talking to a machine, a very natural voice. She was able to talk to me with a thick Asian accent. My accent is not a very American accent, but she was able to understand that. And so that's the kind of thing that we are living in. So when it comes to the interaction with keyboard mouse are now the past conversation. Now today we are talking about chatbots, conversational interfaces, augmented reality, virtual reality, brain computer interface. Facebook and Microsoft, they are heavily investing into brain computer interface. And 3 years back, Facebook in F8 developer conference, there was a paralytic lady from the Boston, and she wanted to type a Facebook message. And because she was paralytic, she was not able to type the Facebook message. And then they demonstrated live in that particular event, F8 developer conference. And this was 2 years back, not recent. The lady was able to type the Facebook message, but just by thought process. And she was able to send that message to her buddy without having lifting any of her fingers. That is just by the brain computer interface. That is all possible, right? So this is the kind of technology that we are living in. Data is big area. Anybody who is good in maths, the statistical maths, they should pursue their career into the data part. There is a huge demand for the data engineers, data architect, data scientists. The days of database administration has gone. Now everything has moved to cloud, and they need a very smart people who can process the data coming from different sources. They need to, that is called as data engineer. They need to infer the data, the kind of data that has been processed. So we call it as analytics part of it, for which they need some good data analyst or the data scientist. So there are different maturity model. This is more of a descriptive analytics, then there is a predictive analytics, and there is a prescriptive analytics. So huge demand. Salaries of data scientists or data architects are much more higher than your normal software engineers, and you should really look at it. And there is a specific way of learning the data side of data technology, right? So that can be a separate discussion altogether. Blockchain, again, I don't want to spend. Blockchain has still certain limitation. The reason, because though blockchain as a technology is much more matured, to really run a blockchain solution, I mean, you really need to understand, and there are certain it's a distributed database with open ledger, and it's kind of decentralized way of handling that, but there are certain issues. But again, blockchain is again another area. So I'll just take a pause, and then maybe I'll spend some 10 minutes on talking about my organizational entry when you move from academic. So any question? I'll just take a pause. Okay, if no, sir, can I extend this lecture by another 5-10 minutes?
Yes, sure, sir. No problem, sir.
Okay, so introduction to the company. So it is, sorry?
Yeah, I just asking student that they have any question, please you can raise.
So I have one question, sir.
Please.
Yes, yes, continue.
So means if we start learning about data right now, so do we have any scope after 1 year? So means what type of courses we should do?
Yeah, if you are good in statistics part of it and data, so data is very important and you can build a career. So first is that, again, AIML is heavily used in the data because the data is required for even for AIML. So it goes very hand in hand. So you need to have a good statistical things, linear algebra and all of these things to understand what's running behind the scene. So there is a definite path with which you can learn the data. The short answer is that yes, there is lot of scope today, tomorrow, and I can see next 10 years that the data is going to play very important role. if today I make a transaction, and this I'm just giving you the example of this, and then you will understand why data is so important. I was making a transaction on my ICICI credit card for the payment of my daughter, and I made this payment in dollars, and obviously the Indian conversion was very high, and this conversion was actually some 60-70,000, right? And believe me, I did the transaction. Immediately I got a call, and again that was not a person who is making the call. The call was again somebody, a voice call. We understand that you have made a transaction of this much amount on your account. If you agree to this particular transaction, please press 1. If not, press 2. And then I pressed 1, and then the whole thing happened. Now believe me, with 30-40 million, I don't know what is the user base of ICICI, in real time it was able to process huge amount of data. Believe me, there will be lot of transactions which would parallelly be happening, and in real time my transaction got processed. There was certain business rule which was written that this is a person who is a privileged customer of my bank, and he is doing certain transaction. He generally does not do such heavy transaction. There is an anomaly there. It processed that, the trigger was there, the IVR call was made, it was taken my feedback, and the process was allowed to further. Believe me, there is a good amount of data engineering to build such platform that can process such real-time data. There is a data conversion, the transaction is happening on some third-party portal, it is hitting their system. So all complications are there, huge amount of this thing. And to answer your question, yes, that is there. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Now coming to the company, now since most of you are in India, and most of, I think I'm talking to the people who might be a local, or maybe they may be from other district or other state. Typically the success story of Indian software industry is basically uh, providing the bodies to the customers who are running huge applications, and that was the scenario almost 4 to 5 years back. Today's software industries have changed. Earlier, you get trained yourself into some common programming skills, be it a Java, C++, and all of those things. And then you would be absorbed looking at your programming skills, and then you were built into the customers to maintain certain applications. The days are gone. There is no more body shopping. And I'm just giving a high level perspective of this. Now, today, lot of Indian companies, they are engaging their customers in building their end solution. They understand their requirement, choosing the technologies, choosing the right solution, putting together the entire solution, and then signing the SLAs. SLAs is service level agreement, that this solution is going to meet all your requirement. You don't pay us. You pay us once you start realizing the benefit of that solution. So it's a risk reward model. So that kind of engagements are being shaped up, for which they need a strong people who understand the domain and technology very well. So they will groom you in certain domains, and this. So the industries has changed. There are a lot of technology companies who have set up their captive units in India, like Deutsche Bank has their captive unit, HSBC has a captive unit, Wells Fargo US has a captive unit in India. There are a lot of technology companies who have set up a captive units in India. If you go to Pune, Kharadi area, you will see a very posh offices with a very good lifestyle, where you will be greeted and all of the things. I was hearing that Google was also going to set up their captive or offshore development center in Pune, but I don't know what's the status. But point what is I'm telling to you. So there are different companies. So one is services company. So Wipro, Infosys, Persistent, KPIT, all of TCS, they are services company. You need to have a different skill sets when you're applying job to the services company. There are companies whom you will be applying, like it could be a manufacturing setup, like John Deere is one which is in India. They are manufacturing, but the IT arm is again in India, right? So there would be a core IT team of a manufacturing company. There the skill sets are very different. There are technology companies who have set up the captive units in India. The technology skills are very different. Cracking the interviews of Google and all of those things is very different. They want to understand your basic skills in terms of your data structure, performance optimization, different algorithms, your analytical skills. They would try to understand that, and there will be different levels of interviews that would happen if you really want to crack the interviews of this ISVs. We call it as independent software vendors, and that is for cracking the interviews of companies like Wipro, Infosys, TCS. Based on again requirement, they will say that they will interview you for Python or programming languages, and in general they may also interview on what programming skills that you have and all of those things in general. And the life cycle management of software development. Earlier, the softwares were developed over a period of 6 years, 6 months, 1 year, and we call it as waterfall way of developing the software. Now, today we are talking about agile, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development. Again, maybe I can have a separate discussion with you in terms of how the softwares are being developed. So you need to understand those particular continuous integration, continuous development. You need to know exactly how the Git repo is being accessed, what are different tools and techniques to really develop the softwares and release it. So we call it as DevOps. The days are gone where was a separate team which was developing the software, and there was a separate team which was taking your changes and then it was converting that into operation of deploying it onto the different servers. The days are gone. Today there is one team which does the development and which also releases it for the deployment. So it is called as DevOps. So you need to understand those particular things. So my point is that if you are appearing for any interviews like Persistent also and all of those things, you need to understand how these things operate. If you're applying the interview, if you're applying for any of this technology companies, if you're applying it for any technology companies, you need to have a very strong skills on data structures, algorithms, and they may also check your analytical skill by asking certain questions which may not be to just judge your analytical skill. So you need to be very well prepared for that. So that's one thing, right? So that is there. Let's talk about facilities in the company. By and large, the life in the software company, we call it as the white collar job. The blue collar job is basically in the manufacturing and all of this thing. I understand most of you are coming from IT and computer science background, so you'll be working mostly in the AC environment. So it's a very lifestyle is very good. Most of these companies take good care of your private. I mean, we call it as private and public health, balance, right? So they do take care of that. So that is on life. I'm in the interest of time, I'm trying to give you all the pointers, right? Learning opportunity. Before you take any of these interviews, you need to master one programming language. I'm saying one programming language in depth. The reason, because today there might be Python, there might be Java, there might be C++ or .NET and all of those things. If you look at my desktop that you see over here, I'm not kidding over here. You can see there is a Visual Studio Code where I can do coding in C++ or any other language. I have PyCharm. If you are able to see my screen, I have PyCharm where I can write any Python code. There is an Eclipse code which is mainly used for Java. There is an Android Studio where I can do a programming skill. There is a Unity. There is a Docker container, Kubernetes. Again, this is a very different area. So if I am a technology architect in a company, I need to understand all of those things. And this I'm just showing it my desktop where I'm do a lot of Python, I do some Java stuff, I do Docker container and all of those things. So you need to master one technology in and out, and then you can very well use those concepts, be it in Python or Java and all of those things. So that's my humble request for you, and that will help you in a long way. And you should take, there are a lot of courses which are available, MOOC courses which are available. You should do that. Okay. technologies that you are working on. I talked about technology. You should have a good understanding of what is cloud, what is IoT, what is AI, ML, and all of those things at a very high level. But when you are doing your internship or your project, you will be taking one of the real world problem and try to be very passionate and very interactive when you are taking up this projects within the industry. And there is nothing as a stupid question, right? You should ask as many questions. Okay, there is a say that सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग. We take that particular fear in our mind and we try not to ask that question because I may look fool in front of this. Believe me, asking all sort of question, people take it in a very positive stride, and that is what is expected, right? Domains, project, and this thing. Let me talk about the domain. So every company has a domain part of it and a technology part of it. If you are applying for any banks who may be recruiting from your company, they will be in the financial domain. Now, company like Wipro, Infosys, Persistent, they serve different customers. So if you look at the organizational structure of this company, it is called as matrix organization, and it is very true for any company. If you are Infosys, TCS, Wipro, or Persistent, it's a matrix organization. So we call it as verticals and horizontal. Verticals is something which is very domain specific. So people in the financial domain will only be serving the banking customer, insurance customer, wealth care management customers, and all of those things. So it's a vertical which is called as domain. And within that domain, there is a horizontal. So you have banking, you have manufacturing, you have utilities, you have telecom, you have pharmaceutical vertical, and all of those things, or a healthcare and life sciences vertical. So these are very vertical. If you bring in any domain knowledge, nothing like it, but I'm not expecting you to have that domain knowledge. And then there is a horizontal. Horizontal are nothing but technology driven. Cloud is required in all the vertical, be it manufacturing, retail, utility, telecom. Then there is a data, as I was talking about. Data is required for all. So there is a horizontal which is technology driven. You have IoT, again they may have a different name. Then you have data, then you have cloud, and then you have testing services and all of these things. So that is how the matrix organization. At a very high level, you should know that, and you should ask where are you going to get placed. And based on the huge requirements which are there, they may put you into vertical, horizontal. And again, there is no specific thing that once you absorbed in one area, you are not allowed to move. You have full liberty to move from one area to another area. So that is what I would want to say. And the last thing, okay, so I think this is what I wanted to share. The last thing which I wanted to let you know is basically you are being interviewed for your attitude. You are being interviewed for how you present yourself. You are being interviewed, how do you articulate your thought process? And that is what will be the impression. 60% of this will be the judgment that the interviewer would be doing based on how you present yourself. It is okay if you bluntly say, sorry sir, I do not know this, but this is what is my understanding and this is what is my answer. Don't try to fool by giving it becomes very wrong if you pretend that you know everything, right? So that is very important. And as I just mentioned, please have you master one programming languages in and out, and most of those concepts like object oriented concept are valid for that. And lastly, as I just mentioned, the academics are taking all the efforts, including this effort, to make you better human, right? And that are the very important skills that will go in a long run, not just to get the cracking the initial interview. Be a very good human. That is very important, and that is what all your 16-year educations, they have been putting the efforts in terms of educating that and all of those things. Getting you trained on a specific technology once you are hired is part of the company. And in Persistent, once you join as a fresher, we run 3 months course. We call it as ELTP program. And again, I don't know, employee learning training program or this thing. So they will train you on different technologies. They will groom you and all of this thing. And they also understand that there is a big gap in terms of industry expectations when the people are joining from the academia. But you should present as a whole personality, rather I would not say the same, when you are being interviewed, and that's very important. In the interest of time, I'm not going to stretch this discussion because you may have, this is a weekend, you may have some other work, but I'll just take a pause and I will stop sharing this, and then I'll take the question. I don't know whether I did a justice to all of your agenda item, but this is what I wanted to cover, and we can take up the questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Students, do we have any questions?
Okay, now I do see some questions in the chat. Audible, yes, sir. Sir, could you the Google Glasses be an example of human augmentation? Yes, Google Glasses are being used to do a augmented reality thing, and then with that augmentation, now if you look at the warehouse solution that is being used by FedEx. Now FedEx person who is doing this is a courier thing. They wear this AR glasses, Google glasses, and in the Google glasses it tells which is the next shipment that you need to pick up. It gives that. It goes, and once you reach to the shipment, you scan the barcode by the Google glasses itself, scan the barcode, and then it will say go left, right, and all of this thing. So yes, that's part of human augmentation. Augmented reality, virtual reality, brain computer interfaces are part of human augmentation. NLP works, I don't know in what context somebody has written. You can either drop your questions in the chat or you can just unmute and ask the question. We can spend a couple of more minutes here.
Sure, any questions?
Okay, I don't know whether it was too much of a dose that I had given. Why Google projects are fails? Okay, no, I think that's a wrong notion. Can you just elaborate, or maybe unmute Priyanshu, and maybe can you just elaborate? Google projects are fails. I'm just trying to read it, but I'm not too sure. Okay, so Google, there are different ways the Google has penetrated.
सर हेलो सर
Yeah.
हाँ सर एक मॉड्यूलर कंसेप्ट आया था सर फोन का तो सर ये प्रोजेक्ट आ रहा था तो सर ये प्रोजेक्ट आ रहा फेल हो गया सर कि सर बेसिकली एक स्मार्टफोन है तो सर उसमें हम लोग कैमरा मतलब अपने हिसाब से अपन चेंज कर सके सर मतलब अकॉर्डिंग टू आवर नीड वी कैन चेंज द बैटरी and display sir modular concept hai sir.
Got it. So it was like a build your own mobile, which required you to connect different modules and build and all of those things. Motorola did try to bring different hardwares, and they used to call it mods. And then so again, the mobile industry has gone in very differently. Earlier, we used to have 10 platforms. At least we used to have Samsung Bada, Google Android, Windows Mobile. There was iPhone was having iOS is there, and then whole lot of things. Now things have converged, and then now today, if you develop anything on iOS and Android, 97% of the devices are covered. And Windows Mobile is again very flopped, and they are also not very good. So in terms of platform penetration, these are the only two major platforms. Yes, you are right. They, based on the smartphone capabilities and this thing, they wanted to bundle together different modules. But again, there are a lot of failures. There are a lot of Google projects which we have not heard of, but they have failed. And that's why Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, they must be investing billions of dollars in invention. We only see few inventions to our thing, so that doesn't mean that Google has failed majority. But yeah, I think that particular idea was not very successful, but that doesn't mean Google project was failed. But you are right.
क्योंकि सर एक्चुअली सर वो ये भी सर एक रीजन है कि मतलब टाइम से पहले वो चीज लॉन्च हो गई सर, वो चीज मतलब फ्यूचर में आनी चाहिए सर.
You are absolutely right, and you brought in a very valid point. I can tell you confidently that out of 1,000 ideas or 1,000 invention, I'm telling you, out of 1,000 ideas, only 1 or 2 ideas are getting commercialized when we call it as innovation. So it's the success rate is 1 out of 1,000 is 0.01 kind of thing, right? So you need to understand that, and it doesn't. And so even my mantra to you is that you should fail often and fail fast. There is no, you should not have any grudges by कि यार मैं fail हो गया. And the today's mantra to be successful is fail often and fail fast, and don't have any grudges. Okay, so that's my mantra to you. Next question.
Good afternoon,
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, please.
yes, sir. I know what will be the future for harnessing the data. Like as we know that government is very strict nowadays about harnessing the data, about the personal information that applications or the companies are harnessing about the user. So what will the future way
Yeah.
of harnessing this data?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. So data, one thing is that all the companies, be it government or private or semi-private and all of those things, they have seen the value coming out of the data. And that's why even if you see, even if you go to a shopping mall, you will see somebody, can you just fill your data? And then he will ask whether you own the car, you could do this car. And so data is playing very important role. Now, there are a lot of rules and regulations which are being brought in terms of adhering to certain compliance when you are using this data which has a personal information. In no way you will see the banks giving you all the 16 digits of your credit card. They will say XXXXX last 4 digit. When you're calling somebody, they will not disclose all of these things. So there are certain regulation compliances which are coming. In Europe, it is very strict to process all the data within the territory of that country. So today, if I'm entertaining any European bank and all of those things, I'm not allowed to use their data directly. The data is anonymized or masked before it is being, we call it as PII data, personal information data, and that is masked. So there is a GDPR, global, I don't know, data privacy regulation. So that is called as GDPR. There is a lot of compliances even in Europe also. Europe already has there. Even India is also very particular. So data, there is different types of data. Personal data is being masked before it is being this thing. But one thing is very clear, that the companies are harnessing lot of data. There is lot of peer pressure from the businesses to get the insight into that particular data. So that's a very high level answer that I'm giving. I can take you through how the data is being processed, harnessed, analyzed, and how the different visualizations and reporting is being done. And again, with Hadoop and all of those things, you can process huge amount of data. Now, if I publish any website today, and if you do a Google tomorrow, my page is already being there, and Google doesn't actually, they have the different types of search. And point is that today different technologies are available for you to process the data in parallel and all of those things. So yes, that is there. So that's the answer to your question. Yeah, any
Yes,
other
sir.
question?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
So, like, if I want to focus on data scientist part or
Yes.
something like that, like if a company wants a data scientist and
Yeah.
they want in a proper aspects or domains, so how
Yes.
should a student should focus or follow a path to
Yes.
get to that point? Like, what should be the
Absolutely. Very
proper
good.
path?
Yeah. So data scientist is a very promising role. Firstly, you should master yourself either in R or Python. I would still suggest to go with Python. The reason, because Python is also will make you more employable in other areas as well. R predominantly is being only used in the data. So first try and understand the uh, language part of it. So that's a programming skills that you need to work on. Secondly, you should be very good at statistical model. So before you train the model, we call it as exploratory data analysis. That is very important for any data scientist. The data scientist needs to understand the data thoroughly before the models are being built. And when he want to understand the data, the understanding of the data has a different dimension. You can only process the data that has hidden patterns within that, and that is where you need to do some PC analysis, principal component analysis, you need to do ED analysis and all of those things, and you need to also look at the statistical analysis. Believe me, when you are taking the data, the humongous amount of data is given to you. So out of that data, you need to really pick up the data for training purpose. The data is being thrown to you as a garbage data. You need to process that data before you can qualify that data for building the machine learning model. Training data, testing data. So you run a complete life cycle of how the models are being built, how the models are being trained, how the models are being evaluated, be it a F1 score, RAC, and all of those things. And then you run one end-to-end pipeline of a data, both from domain and technology standpoint. You can detect, you can take a healthcare data, whether you can see whether the X-ray, take a X-ray data and build a model, or you can take a NLP data. So it is up to you. Again, you need to really deep dive into processing the textual data, image data, and all of those things. And you should have a good understanding of statistical machine learning model, be it your linear regression, be it your clustering using k-means clustering, and all of those things. And you should also today need to have a hang of deep learning models. You have convolution model, you have RNN models, and all of those things. You need to understand that. So it's pretty extensive way of learning this. Good 6 month time that you need to spend, and then you will understand the nuances of data scientist. Just by having 5-minute conversation with a data scientist, it will be very difficult to understand what is his day-to-day job. So I explained you how these things shape up, and then once you have a good view of all of this 9 yards that I talked about, then you will get a pulse of what data scientist role is, right? So that's the, yeah. Next, any question? Okay.
Yes, student. Yes, student. Any? I think we should stop here. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. I think we are almost 25 minutes above what was scheduled. I just wanted to thanks again, sir, for giving this opportunity. I think students were also listening to my session patiently, and there were good questions that those were they asked. I just see Q&A part also. Let me see, sir. Could the Google? Okay, so this is the same question. Okay, so feel free to reach out to me in case you have any further question, or if you need any session on a technology deep dive in any of this area, I'll be happy to conduct that session. But be a good human. Fail often, fail fast. Don't shy away. Being different from the normal crowd it will only make you successful. So don't shy, right? So that's very important, right? Okay, this is good. Over to you, sir. Thank you. And yeah, this was good session.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, sir. The session was really nice. Means the thing which you have said rightly, that we should be first of all a good human. Then only whatever we are learning, that will be application, that will be a properly applicable for the human being. Osama bin Laden was a engineer, but what happened? The story we all know. So that holistic approach should be there in the education, and our university is imparting that to the students. And thank you so much, sir. In an approach, whatever you have given technology perceptions to our students, that was really helpful. That is really helpful. Students have understood many things, where they are looking themselves now and what they have to do. They can just find out the gap in between, and definitely they can work out on that. Thank you so much, sir. And we really thank you that you have spent your valuable time with us. You have given a proper guidance to our students, and we will look ahead at many more sessions from you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and all the best to all the students. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Purushottam. Thank you for this nice session.
So we are ending with our session. Thank you.